Hi everybody, and welcome to Kids Church. Hi Pip.
Hi Paul, hey boys and girls, how are you all?
We're all doing well, and we are racing along here. We're sort of cramming ourselves into a small time frame here, Pip, because the story takes a bit of a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a great story though.
Are you ready for chapter 2?
I am, let's do
Actually, it's chapter 1. Last week was introduction, but are you ready for chapter 1 after our introduction last week?
Well, now I have whiplash, so I don't know what I'm waiting for.
Okay, and what's our term theme this term again, Pip?
Well, we're actually in the second week of our new series called Think Like a Detective.
Very good. And today we're doing a bit of this, which we'll come back to in a moment.
Oh, right.
So last week we did a tour of a police station, and we met Detective Jeffries.
Yeah, he's a gruff kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe this week we'll actually investigate more about Daniel's skateboard and find out what happened.
Yes, and we're going to find out why Christians need to have a detective mind and think like a detective sometimes too.
Yep.
So that's pretty interesting. Have we got a memory verse for this week?
We sure do. This week's memory verse, Paul, is ever since the world was created, people have seen the evidence of God in earth and sky. Romans 1:20.
Well, it's interesting that God shows so much evidence of himself in the world around us.
Yep.
So if we're looking for the evidence of God, we can find it.
That's right. I mean, earth and sky, they're not separated from God. He created all of it. So if you're ever in doubt, just have a look around.
Yeah, very good actually. Our craft today is about how you and I leave evidence behind of where we've been.
Yeah.
And God has left evidence behind about where he's been in the world as well.
Yeah,
So I think it's quite an interesting thing.
it is. Yep.
Don't you think it'd be hard to be a detective if you're trying to get someone to admit they did something wrong and they're refusing to admit they did it? How could you do that?
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. I mean, you would have to have all the evidence you needed to prove that you know what's going on.
Good, yeah. Or you could use the confession machine.
Oh, confession machine.
Let's go and find out about the confession machine. All right, Baxter, we know you did it. We know you stole all that stuff. Just sign the confession and let's get on with our lives. Oh, look, we all mess up. I remember one time when my parents were out, I went to the cookie jar and I ate maybe 2 or even 3 of them. And look, when they came home, I confessed. I did my time out in the veggie garden and then I moved on. So just sign the confession and let's all go home. Hey, that's hurtful. Okay, it's not helpful. All right, look, I tried to do this a nice way, but you forced my hand. I'm gonna have to go and get the confession machine. It's gonna get really nasty.
Hello. It's gonna get ugly.
Hey, I don't know what that clown told you, but I'm not signing any confession.
This is gonna be fun.
I'm not afraid of nobody.
You asked for it.
I ain't signing anything.
I'm gonna get you.
Hey, you're a cop. You're not allowed to hurt me.
Sign the confession.
No can do.
I'm losing my paycheck.
Ha! What are you gonna do? What? What are you doing? Why are you taking off your badge?
Now it's just you and me.
Hey, I want a lawyer.
I am the law.
Sorry, man, can't help you.
I'm gonna grab your bottom lip.
Not my bottom lip is what we call a loose cannon. Don't look at me like that. We don't control it.
You're going down.
Come on, man, I didn't do anything.
I gotta call someone.
Who are you calling?
Hello, is that emergency? I've got someone coming to you.
I don't want to go to emergency. What are you going to do?
Sign confession.
You are way over the top. What are you doing? Mercy. All right. I did it. I admit it. I'll sign anything. Just get him away from me.
There you go. That wasn't too hard, was it? My work here is done.
Good job, Captain. Thanks again. Hey, we still on for a game of squash tonight? Wow.
Yeah, Paul, that kid is pretty good at getting the truth from people. I wouldn't like to meet him if I was a criminal.
Yeah, that's right. Pip, what was it that we wanted the kids to download from the website, from the YouTube website, that they need for this series?
Yeah, so boys and girls, you may have remembered from last week that we downloaded our detective toolbox that was in the link on the YouTube channel. It's still there, you can still download it. You'll need it to be able to complete all the weeks of the detective series.
And shall we go back to the next chapter of the detective story, Pip?
Absolutely, Paul, and remember guys, you are in this story, so let's dive straight back in.
This story comes from a book called Cold Case Christianity for Kids, which is written by a real-life police detective by the name of J. Warner Wallace. You can learn even more about how to think like a detective by going to his website for kids called casemakersacademy.com. Jeffries clears his throat and says, "All right, so far we've talked about our 2 goals for this training. Number 1, to teach you to think like a detective. And number 2, to get you interested in police and detective work. I've told you that using our minds and looking at evidence is more important than technology, and I've started to explain that we cannot assume anything when we start a case. And of course, we did a tour of the station. Now, take that skateboard you have there." You and your friends look surprised. "Who owns it?" asks Jeffries. Hannah says,
A girl called Zoe. Daniel said so.
Jeffries doesn't answer. He just looks at Hannah. Hannah thinks for a moment and then says,
But I guess we don't know that for sure.
"Bingo, you're a quick learner," Jeffries points at her. "To be a good detective, you can't start with your mind already made up, right? You can't start by assuming you know something, and you can't assume you know who owns that skateboard." The students all nod. Jeffries folds his arms. "Okay, can anyone think of another example of assuming something?" Jason, the boy from the other school, raises his hand. The girl next to him is just quietly watching the whole time. Jason speaks confidently. "Well, my next door neighbours invited me to their church, but I didn't go because they said that Jesus did miracles, like he walked on water. But miracles can't happen, so my neighbours are just assuming that Jesus did miracles, right? They're being know-it-alls, aren't they?" Interesting, replies Jeffries. Jason looks pleased with himself. And then Jeffries says, "But you actually might have it backwards there." Jason is surprised. "Huh?" Jeffries walks toward him and asks, "How do you know for sure that your neighbours haven't checked the evidence?" Everyone looks confused. Jeffries sits on the edge of an empty desk in front of Jason and looks at him. "Maybe your neighbours aren't know-it-alls. Maybe they're not assuming Jesus did miracles. Maybe they've done some research, looked at the evidence, and have decided he did miracles. Right? So maybe you're being a know-it-all by assuming they haven't checked it out. Actually, maybe you're being a know-it-all by assuming that miracles can't happen. Have you checked that out for yourself?" Jason thinks for a moment and then says, I never thought of it like that. But I mean, miracles are impossible, right?" Jeffries looks around the group. "Remember our lesson for today, we need evidence before we decide anything. As detectives, we don't start with our minds already made up. We're not know-it-alls, we do not assume. We always start with an open mind." Okay, Jason says and stares at his desk. "But I'm glad you brought up this example," says Jeffries, trying to encourage Jason. As a matter of fact, it's a lot like a detective case. So today we already have 2 detective cases we can think about. The case of the mysterious skateboard and the case of Jesus' miracles. Both of them quite interesting. Let's just talk about miracles for a minute. Cadet Jason, Jeffrey says, reading Jason's name tag. Why do you and some other people think that miracles are impossible? Well, I've never seen any, Jason says. Jeffrey stands up, turns and walks slowly back to the front of the room. Really? Well, let's think about that. When people talk about miracles, they're usually talking about things that are not natural, aren't they? Miracles are things that don't follow natural laws, like the law of gravity, say. If Jesus walked on water, it was not a natural thing to do. He was breaking a natural law about floating and sinking, right? Everyone nods. Where is the detective going with this? So, miracles are not natural, and some people think that everything in the universe can only be natural. Only natural things can happen. I think that's me. Jason looks up at the detective. Says Jeffries. Oh, by the way, this is another definition for your sheet. See the word naturalism? Naturalism is believing that there is nothing real except natural laws and atoms and chemicals. Naturalist people don't believe in God because God is supernatural. But Cadet Jason, think about this. Jason looks up from his sheet. These same naturalist people cannot explain how the universe started. You might think you've never seen a miracle, but you're living in a miracle. We all are. It's called the universe. Jason's eyes go wide. The universe is a miracle? Sure it is. Think about it. Scientists say that our universe began from nothing, out of nothing, and for no reason, it suddenly just started with a bang. Daniel looks confused. What do you mean, nothing? No, I mean nothing. No rocks, no water, no gas, no light, no stars, no atoms, not even any laws like the law of gravity. No seconds, no time, nothing. And it wasn't like there was a huge space waiting to be filled with stars. There was no space either. Nothing means not a thing. So there's only one way that everything could come out of nothing. A miracle, Jason mutters. Exactly. It must have been a real, actual miracle. We are all living in a miracle.
I kind of understand,
says Hannah with a frown. Detective Jeffries picks up the skateboard. Look, did this skateboard create itself? He asks. Oh, I'd like to see a miracle like that, says Jason. Everyone laughs. Wouldn't that be great? Asks Jeffries. But no, we know that skateboards can't create themselves. They don't just pop out of nowhere. They're made out of stuff like wood and plastic and metal, and they're made by somebody. That's the normal, natural way, right?
Yes.
But when the universe was made, all the stars, the planets, the galaxies, even light and all the laws, everything was all made out of absolutely nothing.
Aha! That's not natural,
says Hannah, understanding at last. Exactly, Cadet Hannah. It's definitely not natural. It's supernatural, and so whatever made the universe must be supernatural too. Jeffries turns to Jason. So, Cadet Jason, if something or someone could do the miracle of making a universe out of nothing, do you think it could also do other miracles like walking on water? Hannah continues.
So, the miracles of Jesus were actually easy compared to creating the universe.
Yes. So, we might not know just yet if Jesus did any miracles, but we can't start by assuming that miracles can't happen. Why? Because we're all living in a miracle. Again, I say this, we must carefully examine the evidence before we make up our mind. Jason is staring silently at Jeffries. Jeffries takes a marker pen out of his pocket. If I drop this marker pen, it falls down, right? What law is that? Jason nods and answers, gravity. Yes, that's the law of gravity, but who made that law? The government? All the kids laugh. Jeffries drops the marker pen, but then catches it with his other hand before it hits the desk. See that? I'm able to stop the law of gravity from pulling this marker pen all the way to the floor just by sticking my hand in it, and I'm only a man. Do you think whoever made the law of gravity out of nothing could do more than me? Could the maker of the law overrule any law for a moment if they wanted to? All the kids nod. Jeffries looks at each of their faces. Anyway, just for today, all I'm saying is that we have to keep an open mind and be ready to listen and learn. Don't decide Zoe is the owner of the skateboard without looking into the evidence. That's assuming. And don't say Jesus couldn't do miracles just because you already decided that miracles can't happen. That's assuming too. You have to look at all the evidence first with an open mind. Got it? Most of the cadets nodded. Jeffries looks at Jason. Got it? Jason thinks for a moment, then nods. And that brings us to the end of your first lesson. So then, what is the number one tool in your detective toolbox on the sheet there? It's got the initials O-M. Daniel calls out. An open mind? Jeffries nods. Correct. If you don't have an open mind, you may never find the truth. Without an open mind, you can never be a good detective. A good detective starts each case with an open mind. Okay, everybody, for next time, see if you can find some evidence about that skateboard. And if you're interested, you might also like to find out some evidence about Jesus' miracles too. Start with the biggest miracle, coming back to life at the resurrection. See you next week, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Detective Jeffries. You, Hannah and Daniel write on your sheets and then pack up your things and leave the room. The other kids are still at their desks writing. As you leave the police station, Hannah says to you and Daniel,
Learning to think like a detective is going to be even more interesting than I thought.
That story is getting more interesting, I think, Pip.
Ooh, yeah.
Imagine that investigating the owner of an old skateboard has got some similarities to working out if Jesus did miracles.
What? Yeah.
Let's find out more about that.
It's awesome. Well, guys, in your detective toolbox, you need to start filling out the first bit, the OM, and the OM was open mind.
Very good, you can do that right now. Which is a bit like our backdrop, Pip. What's this a picture of?
Woohoo! Wow. Well, it's a very open brain.
So that's to remind us about having an open mind, but maybe we don't want to have our minds open that way.
Yeah, maybe not that much. I mean, yeah.
It looks like a little bit dangerous to your health.
Yeah.
But Pip, what do you think of when we talk about having an open mind?
Well, it makes me think of not jumping to conclusions, Paul. So if people make mistakes, I'm not just going to judge them very quickly.
Jump on them.
Yeah, I'm going to allow them the time to explain what happened, and then maybe we can work through it together.
That's good. Very important to have an open mind and check the facts, as Pip said, before we assume or jump to conclusion. Craft today is starting with this question. Here is a riddle. What do you always take with you but always leave behind? Here's a hint. It must be something on your body. Answer: fingerprints. Your fingerprints are yours alone. No one has fingerprints exactly like yours. And because we have sweat and oil in our skin, even after we wash our hands, when we touch something, say a glass, we leave behind an almost invisible print from our fingers. For many years, police have known that robbers leave their fingerprints on whatever they touch. So if they can get the prints, they can get the robber. To clearly look at your fingerprints, you need a pencil, some tape, and a piece of white paper. Break off a small piece of tape, scribble a really dark patch of pencil on the paper, press your finger on it, press your finger on the sticky side of the tape, peel the tape off your finger and stick it on the paper. Which one of the three main fingerprint patterns is your print most like? Boys and girls, I hope you enjoy making your own fingerprints. That's a really good thing to do, and detectives know how to do that, and that's a good skill to learn.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We have to go over something we gave you last week that we said we'd give you the answers for this week, and it's this picture. Boom. So what souvenirs can you see from other countries, Pip?
Well, Paul, if I remember correctly, there was the koala from our country, the little toy koala.
Yes. excellent. It's someone's been to Australia.
Yeah.
And I've seen something in Chinese restaurants that's on this picture. It is a white cat with a little paw up,
Yeah.
and that means someone in that picture has been to Asia.
See, also in the top middle, there's this really tall kind of wooden mask. Maybe that's from Africa somewhere.
I agree. And there's just below that mask is that weird little skull thing, which people in South America, I don't know why, Pip, but they make skulls, they paint them, decorate them, and put them on a shelf in their home.
Well, I guess it's a way of making it nice. Well, the last one I see, Paul, is the double-decker bus from London, England.
Yeah,
So
I
maybe
see.
someone's been to England.
I don't know why there's so many rabbits in that picture, Pip, but
I've never seen one walking around with a backpack on or reading a book.
here's another thing to search for, boys and girls. And we're going to show you in this picture 5 beach balls. See if you can find them before us. Ready, set, go, Pip.
There's one there. There's one there. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5. Paul's doing it all for me. All right, boys and girls, that's it. And we're going to get Paul to pray for us. So close your eyes. We'll get Paul to pray.
Talk to God. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, that you've given evidence about yourself, fingerprints all over your creation that are clues and hints about you. Thank you for that. And help us to keep an open mind and to encourage people around us to keep an open mind. Maybe people who don't know why we go to church. Let's encourage them to have an open mind and to check it out. And help us as we grow older to keep asking questions and to keep searching for the right evidence. And we thank you for this time together today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
All right, bye everyone.
See ya!
Oh yeah, and remember, boys and girls. Wow, bees.
Body.
Yeah, bees.
So, what do you think about Pip? So, Pip, you can say, Paul, have we got time for a Clancy Shonk song?
Oh
really
yeah,
quickly?
Shonk.
Clancy Shonk. Clancy Shonk.
Yeah.
Shonk.